Yeah. Another episode of Luke and I on the Phillies, and a good afternoon, everybody. Sean Brace with you here. As always, Luke himself, Luke Arcaini, and damn, what a difference a weekend makes. All of a sudden, you go from the best start in franchise history to the sky is falling. Folks,
season's over, Sean Brace.
One thing you're going to hear on this episode of Luke and I can guarantee you won't hear us suggesting Trey Turner taking an appearance in the outfield, taking reps, whether it's in Double-A or wherever he needs to come back. And we're going to have more on that story because there was an update over the weekend. It's just dumb. They play 162. They're going to lose games. And
we're not playing MLB The Show here. We're actually trying to win a World Series.
I have not played the show. Are you?
Nah, I'm not a show guy anymore. I used to be. I used to actually be an MLB 2K guy.
Okay.
The old time when they used to make 2K, like MLB 2K12.
Gotcha.
Was a big 2K guy. I never really enjoyed the show, though, to be completely honest with you.
I need a new. I just found out today. Real sidebar, real fast, is that the brand new college football game.
Oh yeah.
Not compatible with the PlayStation 4, so if you don't have a 5, you're in trouble.
Yeah, I'm not playing that because I ain't buying a PS5. Honestly, the only thing I really have anymore is a PS4, and I don't think I've plugged it in probably over a year and a half.
My daughter's playing now. We were playing the Paw Patrol.
Oh yeah, great one.
Yeah,
right.
She was balling out. You can't lose in that. All right, we got a lot to get to. As I said, Luke and I on the Phillies live and ready to go after what just took place over the weekend. We got an update on Trey Turner. Of course, the Phillies ended up losing a series in Colorado and now have lost back-to-back ball games for quite some time. First time in quite some time, all the way back to Cincinnati when they lost their last series. So the good news is this is what it's all about when you get a number one horse in your rotation, and Zach Wheeler is exactly that, because your number one will step out there and put an end to whatever skid or bump that the Phillies are going through at this point in time. For the most part, again, everything is fixable. We're going to talk a little bit more about the series that took place in Colorado, but I do want to start out with what we witnessed yesterday in the Bay, though, Luke, because I put my head down for a minute. Next thing, it's 8-4. Like this team was competing.
Yeah, that tends to happen when Taijuan Walker pitches. It can snap within the blink of an eye.
Is that the big takeaway from yesterday? Is that Taijuan Walker was on the mound?
Yeah, he's just getting hit really hard.
Yeah,
it's any ball that the opposing team makes contact off of Walker just feels like it's going at 90, 95, 100 miles an hour. There's a tweet earlier. He is currently second in the league in barrel percentage, 8th in average exit velocity, and 10th in hard hit. That's from Jack Fritz. So basically, he's been getting hit really, really hard, just about every single game, and really against lineups that like aren't that special, right? Like some of these teams he's faced this year are not that good, right? These lineups are not that great. So it's definitely a bit concerning. I mean that is just kind of been like that since he's got here, while he's sort of trekked through last season in a bit of an ugly way. But I mean, hey, you win 15 games, you win 15 games. And I'm not a wins or a pitcher stat guy. But I mean, some of these lineups that he's faced this year, the product that's come out of them just hasn't been good. Giants twice, Mets, who haven't had a good lineup early on, they kind of knocked them around a bit. He just hasn't looked great. I can't sit here and say I think he'll turn it around, because I don't. I think this is what Taijuan Walker is. I think he'll go out there. He'll give you 5-6 innings. It won't be a fun 5-6 innings. But hey, yesterday, I mean, that kind of came down to the offense also not being great as well. Yesterday, all wasn't just on Taijuan.
That is correct. And the one thing we do know, going back to that first series against the Giants earlier this month, at Citizens Bank Park, Taijuan Walker pitched 6 1/3 against the Giants. I believe ended up getting a win in that game as well, 5-4 final score. So, look, I think it's really easy to look at it and trust your eyes, right? Like yesterday, he was absolutely getting barreled up. And It seemed like the balls were high in the zone, and even if they were away, there's not much guessing by these hitters. Taijuan Walker doesn't have the gas. He doesn't have the stuff. And he's just a guy that's going to go out there and eat innings, and you hope he can keep it in the ball yard and a little bit lower than 4 or 5 runs. Let's just put it that way. Get the ball to the bullpen and go from there. But again, as you pointed out, 8-4, not all exactly on the pitching staff. Again, 4 runs out there in San Francisco. I expected a little bit more production. And oh, by the way, going into what the Phillies did in Colorado as well, let's just bring that into the equation, because this is a team that has been roping the ball all over the place. And in 2 out of the 3 games and 2 of the losses against Colorado, they scored 2 runs in Colorado, which is really hard to do. What was your takeaway from that? Is it just a matter of ebbs and flows in the season? What did you like? What didn't you like from that series against Colorado?
Yeah, this one felt like sort of the schedule makers kind of chalking in a Phillies losing streak about 5-6 months ago. Historically, the 2 worst stadiums the Phillies play baseball in are Coors Field and Oracle Park.
Wow.
So to put those 2 back to back, that it's been a bit tough. You would think like a lineup like this that goes into Coors Field would just roll, right? This altitude, right? Any ball you hit hard has a chance to go out, and it just didn't. Obviously, the win on, I believe that was Saturday night, the one with the Harper home run late in the game, that was an awesome win. That was a really awesome win. The other 2, not so much. Only 4 runs combined in the 2 losses in Colorado after having I believe a 17 game stretch where they scored 4 or more runs in a row before that. So a bit of a dud there. I mean, I think it's sort of just one of those dud West Coast road trips. And it's funny because they actually, going into this Rocky series, they won their last 11 games against the NL West. They've been playing really well against the NL West over the last, the beginning of the season and going back into last season. And I mean, listen, sometimes that's the beauty of the sport, right? I mean, Walker talked yesterday after his start, and he said that's the best he's felt all year. And it was one of the worst starts he's had. Like, that's just kind of how baseball is. Like, you can feel great and play bad, and you can feel terrible and play great. That's just kind of what I think happened and is currently happening right now. I do think tonight is a really good opportunity to get back on track. Philly's going up against Eric Miller, actually former Philly, who was acquired in the Junior Marte trade a few years back. But I just think, right, Zach Wheeler on the mound, lineup gets it going again against a lefty. I think they got a good chance to get some runs back on the board tonight and get a win.
All right, more of the bad. Let's talk, as my voice is cracked, let's talk about Ranger Suarez getting his first loss of the season. And it was an interesting start by Ranger by the sense of 9 strikeouts, 9, and he had control issues, which was evident. Just an amazing for him to go out there and strike out 9 the way he did. It really opens my eyes as far as more potential. Again, I'm not going to get too crazy about losing a game in Colorado, but man, 9 strikeouts by Ranger Suarez. He's doing it, and he's doing it consistently this year, Luke. It's really impressive. But as I said, bottom line, they ended up losing that game. His first loss on the season. What was your takeaway from Rangers' start there with the hiccups?
Yeah, he just didn't have it. A location wasn't there. Didn't really seem like he had a good feel for his pitches. But I mean, he allowed 3 hits, 4 earned runs, and 4 walks, and his ERA is a 1.75. So, like, I mean, that's still pretty nasty. Yeah. No, I mean, just kind of one of those dud games for Rangers. Wheeler had one down in Miami like a few weeks ago. It's just some days you just don't have your stuff, right?
He clearly did though. 9 strikeouts.
Yeah, right. And he did, and he sort of got it late. But he did kind of get knocked around early. Right. I mean, that first inning, single homer, right? Second inning, walk, double, ground, fielder's choice. I mean, it was 5-0 after 2 innings. So, I mean, he did settle in after those first 2 innings, but definitely just a bit of a rough start. And I mean, if you allow, 5 earned runs to start off your day, it's going to be a little hard for your team to get the win there if you allow 5 earned runs in the first 2 innings of a game. But I mean, just kind of one of those games for Ranger that you can't really take, much stock into. It's just one of those for me that you kind of just, crumble up and throw it out, and hopefully the next one's a lot better.
Well, from the betting perspective, that's not what I did. I cashed that green, put that green check mark up against his strikeouts. I had 7, 6, 5.5 was his number. That was plus money. Actually, excuse me, let me back it up. This is where the books finally caught up with it. DraftKings had Ranger Suarez at 5.5 minus money for the first time this season.
Yeah, they're going to have to start raising these lines here soon,
but they did not. They didn't touch 7. They didn't. 8, 9 got you into plus 300, then some, if I'm not mistaken. He finished with 9. I took 7. It was plus 220, I want to say. Like, all right, he's consistently going out here mowing down hitters. He's had one start where he had like total, I think the 4, and that was against the Mets. Other than that, this dude's going out there and hitting his number every single start. And again, ended up losing, understood, but still, I am super impressed with 9 strikeouts and sky's the limit. But you're right, books will have to catch up here and adjust that number, else we're just going to continue to fire away.
Yeah, I'm going to keep betting it every time. I had it on Sunday, even though they lost the game. I mean, he's just, it's just funny because he's turned into a guy that now can very much confuse hitters. In the past, my issue with Ranger in the past has sort of been, I feel like at times he's gotten a little predictable. There were times where I feel like a lot of his pitches were the same. And while his stuff was there, I think it was just sort of on the little bit predictable side. Now he is like one of the most unpredictable pitchers in baseball this year. It's just you have no idea what's coming, right? Off speed fastball, high, low, away, in. Like it's just, there's a million different things that he could throw at you right now. And I think that's been a big reason for his this influx this year in strikeouts.
Mm-hmm. Well, hopefully more of that, and hopefully tonight with Zach Wheeler on the mound once again, going up against the San Francisco Giants. We'll talk a little bit about from the Giants' perspective what they got going on the mound. Really interesting stuff. They didn't name a starter. You have 2 lefties going in this series. Of course, Blake Snell getting the start yesterday. He was a hot button topic all season long. I kind of throw that one away, and it definitely will be something I look back on. Had to be concerning to a point that he was not in for spring training, and you have to acclimate yourself and get used to it. And even for somebody like Blake Snell, with the success that he had last year, and he's been around the game forever, it feels like he's come out and said, it's been troublesome me not being in spring training, and here we are. It's a starting pitcher, so it does make sense, but I did expect him to be a little bit better. I thought yesterday he was okay. I didn't think he was the Blake.
Yeah, I thought he had his stuff going early.
Yeah.
I thought his stuff was working a lot better earlier in the game. First few innings, it looked like it was going to be a really long day for the Phillies. Those first 2 innings, I think he had 1, 2, 3, 4 strikeouts in the first 2 innings, I think. And then obviously the big Schwarber home run in the third kind of led him away. I think after that kind of got on the board with Rojas and then Schwarber, I think Snell, he was a little bit off of the tracks. But I think, he said yesterday after the game, not facing major league pitching, and the first time you face major league pitching being in a regular season game in April, that's not easy, right? Like that's not basically having any warm up. And obviously, like it's not like from the middle of October to March 31st, he didn't throw a baseball one time. But there's a difference between throwing in a practice facility in your backyard, right? That compared to, throwing to Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber on the mound there's a big difference there, right? So, I think he'll slowly kind of find his way back. I don't, and I know I said this all off season. I think this is sort of the start of maybe the regression for Snell, and I don't think big time. I just think this contract and teams not really sort of wanting to give him that big money last year. I think teams know that this is sort of going to start maybe spiraling a little bit over the next year or two. He's just not built, in my opinion, to pitch extremely long. I think these walks are going to catch up to him, right? And I mean, we saw yesterday, if a guy like Kyle Schwarber gets a hold of a ball off of Snell, he's going to hit it really hard. I think that was 107 off the bat from Schwarber yesterday.
How does that not take a bath?
Dude, I like, no joke. When I saw him hit that, I thought that was going to be the longest home run ever. Like it looked like a nuke, and I don't know if the wind was blowing in.
It was,
and it was a nuke, right? I mean, it was 404
feet. It was tattooed,
but it somehow didn't find the cove. I mean, you got to
really
hit it really hard to get it into that cove.
Oh, you absolutely have to murder the baseball. It really does make you think. It really does make you think. All right, yeah, there was definitely something going on with Barry. Just a little for him to be the way he was. The splash downs, those things don't happen at the rate that we once thought they did, and it was only because of Barry Bonds. But Schwarber, when he has not warning track power, but the final row, I don't know what you would call that. That walkway before you get to McCovey Cove,
the concourse power.
Yeah, the concourse. He got it right there, concourse power, and was unable to get it over into the water. But what an absolute smash!
Oh, he nuked it. He absolutely nuked
it. Another thing from yesterday's game specifically, just an ugly game. 3 errors, 2 by Alec Boehm. And I know you and I have talked about this because Boehm has been that guy, in my opinion, where I didn't have confidence in him at all when he came up with the glove. And then, of course, he went through that situation. I effing hate it here and blah, 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 blah. And he's turned it around, and to the point that, like, when there's a ball hit his way, hard, sharp, I don't think twice about it. Boehm's going to get it. Yesterday, he was off. He let the ball eat him up multiple times, and 2 of those balls, both errors he should have had. I'm not going to sit here and say routine as I'm sitting in the chair, but come on, man. He's fielded a hell of a lot tougher, ground balls throughout the course of the season. Just was not his day, that's for sure. But it's important that, he comes out there, puts behind him, and gets after it today, and there's no issue with the confidence. That's the only concern I have right now. Again, one bad game, it's going to happen. Your thoughts?
Yeah, Boehm's just kind of the guy that, like, while he's been great, he's still the player where he's going to have really bad days. That's just kind of how he's been. Like, when he's had bad days in the past, they kind of just like spiral. I mean, obviously, like, we know the 3-error game. I think he's had multiple games this year with multiple errors. So I mean, he obviously leads all third basemen in the league in errors with 8. And I believe he's played like 8th or 9th in innings. So I mean, he's making some errors over there. I mean, that's not really a question. Like, those are definitely over there. But he's still made great strides. At the third base position, which really is the funniest part, because he leads the league in errors, and I feel like he looks like a night. And I still think he looks like a night and day defender compared to years past. I mean, he's 18th in the league right now in qualified third baseman. It's fielding percentage. So, I mean, obviously middle of the pack. I mean, if we're going off of qualified, there is 19 guys, and he is ranked 18th. So definitely not a defensive specialist like some of these guys are. I mean, Jordan Westburg from Baltimore has yet to make an error in 325 innings at third base.
It's impressive.
I mean, that's pretty nuts.
It's the toughest position in baseball, hands down.
It's one of the toughest positions to play in sports. I mean, you got guys hitting the ball 110 miles an hour at you, and you're 90 feet away from them. I mean, it's pretty bizarre. Like how, and a lot of these times, right, these guys are playing even with the base. There's times where they're expected to make these plays like when the infield's in. Like, there's times where they're like 70 feet from the batter, and he's ripping 110 mile an hour line drive at you. Like, I mean, it is probably a top 3, I would say, hardest position to play in all of sports. I mean, Definitely. You just got to be ready. You got to be quick. You got to be on your feet. And the one thing about third base is you can never get caught flat-footed, ever, because it's just the second that you don't make the right first move, the ball's past you. That's just how hard these guys hit it these days. It's pretty nuts. It's a really, really hard position to play. And it's Bohm honestly really has been better, like we said. It's just still the errors are. I don't think they're going anywhere. I think he's just going to be one of those guys where he's going to be a great hitter. He's going to make the plays, but he's also just going to rack the error. Like I don't think that's something that'll really go away with Bohm. I think the errors will kind of stay there for a while, but he will also make some pretty awesome, miraculous plays for you over there as well.
Consistent. That's all we ask for.
Yeah.
We just want some consistency. He's been that. I think he's played well, even though you just laid out the numbers of him leading the league at that position.
I mean, at the dish, he's been unreal.
Well, look,
it's been great. Granted, he is on like a 2 for 19 right now, 2 for 20. But I mean, he's still been the best hitter on the Phillies this year.
Yeah, look, we know what it is. You play 162, you're going to have ups and downs, but you got to move on and again, just return to form. That's all. This team needs to return to form and get it going again. You get out there on the West Coast, you're away from your normal routine, and things change. And again, you got the bullseye in your back, right? Like the Rockies see the Phillies coming into town. This is a team that can win the World Series, best team in baseball. Let's have some fun. Rockies aren't that bad at home throughout the course of the years, right? So they played well, and things got away from the Phillies yesterday. San Francisco, a beautiful day at the ball yard, man. Oh, yeah. If you're a Giants fan and you get the opportunity to go to those games, like that's just awesome. Yeah, it was a 10 out of 10 day.
That's all. That may be at the very top of the list for me for stadiums that I want to see.
I've walked around it, never been in for a game. I walked around it, been all over the place in San Francisco, but man, that was I wish I could have made a game.
The views in there are just
ridiculous. And all the blue sky behind it, just perfect. Absolutely perfect. All right. Last one from the weekend. Bryce Harper getting thrown out. What the hell were you saying then?
Oh man, I mean, that was bizarre. Like, there comes to a point where like there's things in sports that you simply just can't do. You can't throw the star player of a baseball team out in the first inning of a game.
You would think,
right? Like, and obviously there was a lot of tweets. It's like, oh, these guys buying tickets for their kids to go see Bryce Harper, and that's one thing. Stop, whatever.
Yeah,
I don't, whatever. Sorry, luck of the draw. You picked the wrong game.
I'd say gambling more than anything.
Yeah, but I mean, it just comes down to the fact that like you can't put a star of the game on the stage like that when the umpire is in the wrong. Like he made the wrong call. Harper asked what happened. Harper got angry, and the guy threw him out. Like there's some things you can't do, and that is that is one of them. Like you cannot throw the star of a baseball team out in the first inning when he's arguing a strike call that he was right about. Like I get it if the umpire was right and Bryce was wrong, then maybe. But like I mean, Harper was right. Like that was a ball that never should have been called a strike. And I mean, the umpire just seemed like he was a little like all about himself there. Like it almost seems like the umpire wanted to go viral. Like he saw the potential there and was like, I'm gonna throw this dude out for no reason right now.
That's basically what was his number? 102 or something along those lines.
I mean, he was a minor league umpire that got called up.
Wow.
I'm
at that point in time,
just can't.
You gotta have some pride. You gotta say to yourself, like, I'm going to be bigger than this moment. And even though it is Bryce Harper, or you can enter the biggest name, Aaron Judge, whoever, Mike Trout, I don't care. You gotta say to yourself, like, you know what, man, let's just keep it going. You're gonna hear things. There's going to be some disagreements. There's going to be some disrespect. There's going to be people saying some stuff from the stands, from the dugout. It's going to get hot. But you can't be throwing out people, especially in the first inning of a game. You just can't. No. You can't do it.
And it's funny because I do believe that there are players in this league that if they did that, they wouldn't have been thrown out.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm sorry. if that happens to Ohtani and he does that, it's the exact same thing. He ain't going nowhere, right? Like it's just sort of the matter of I think who the situation is. I mean, the graphic was up there, right? Among active players, Harper leads everybody in ejections by 12. He has 21 in career. The next person has 9. So he's he has been ejected from some baseball games here and there.
He's been in the league for a long time too.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, one of them being, and on that note, goodbye finally to Angel Hernandez. Gone. One of them being the legendary one where Harper stormed down like he was gonna rip Angel Hernandez's head off, and then toss the helmet up in the stands. I mean, the dude's just
poor Angel.
I mean, Harper's a beast. Angel Hernandez is an idiot. Right?
Yeah,
it's
officially the worst umpire, the worst official in the history of sports. Angel Hernandez.
He might be one of them. Yeah.
From the way that the timeline was so wild in the last 24 hours, because I have never seen everybody come together on 2 issues. One was Bill Walton is the greatest, human being ever involved in sports, and the other is Angel Hernandez is officially the worst umpire / referee official in all of sports. It was amazing to see. There wasn't one person, like even Angel Hernandez's kids were tweeting like, yeah, dad sucks. It's time for him to go.
I mean, the dude's like, if the dude stinks, the dude stinks.
Yeah,
like, that's really all there is to it.
Well, yeah, that was something that came on the timeline late yesterday, and something that's been in the works, I guess, for a couple weeks now.
Seems like, yeah, I mean, he had a whole statement.
Yeah, look, they officially paid him to go away, which is telling, right? I've never seen that before. I've never seen an umpire forced out in the middle of a season. No. There's definitely been umpires that have retired. We know that. It's one of the best gigs once you get to, I mean, Angel Hernandez has been doing it forever. I think 40 years, if I'm not mistaken, 39, 40 years. It's like when you get to that professional level, you're not going anywhere because you don't make money in AAA. You don't make money in AA. You make money in major leagues. And once you get to that pinnacle, you're like, all right, I'm good. I'm a made man. You don't see that happen often in any sport, but baseball is different, man. With some of these Cowboy Joe West and Angel Hernandez, like I can. It's not a good thing when we can name these referees, right? You go in the NBA and the Tony Brothers, Scott Foster. It's not a good thing when we know these names.
The extender, Scott Foster.
Yeah, he didn't extend our series. But
he didn't. I wonder why, because New York was involved.
That's right. All right. Before we go around the league with the Phillies, or as far as with the other teams out there, yeah, let's do that. We'll save that for last. We'll go around the league. Of course, Ronald Acuna Jr., that's the big storyline from the weekend, tearing an ACL and being done for the Atlanta Braves again. And that's a team that's searching right now, and losing Ronald Acuna Jr. cannot be easy. But they know what it takes to replace him. We'll discuss that a little bit more and whether or not you think this is going to keep them on the outside looking in for the playoffs. But let's talk a little bit more about tonight's game. Firing up DraftKings Sportsbook. Once again, Phillies, 9:45 p.m. First pitch, game 2 in San Francisco. You got Wheeler and you got Eric Miller. Eric Miller, I believe, is a lefty too, right? He's a lefty?
Yeah,
lefty as well. So they're sending 3 lefties out there to start. A little bit on Eric Miller, if you could, for background sake here, as far as Miller going for the Giants tonight.
So once in the Phillies organization, he was in the Junior Marte deal last season. He's kind of floated around with them between a reliever, starter. They sort of use him as an opener sort of thing. Like I would be surprised if he went more than 2 innings tonight.
He pitched yesterday, correct?
Well, yes. So he did pitch yesterday. So I mean, can't really expect much. This seems sort of like an opener deal where he'll throw, max 2 innings.
Yeah.
I mean, this could just be sort of a get through the Phillies' top 5-6 guys one time and then throw it over to a bullpen game. Doesn't have great stuff. I wouldn't really like, and it would be hard to sort of tell you to bet off of these lefty splits because obviously you really don't know how long he'll be in there. But righties have hit way better against him this year than lefties. An 800 OPS for righties compared to just a 482 for lefties. So the righties definitely have his number. So I mean, if you wanted to look maybe for some early game bets that you could hopefully cash maybe in the first few innings, I would look at JT Realmuto. I mean, the dude's hot. He's been hot for just about a month now. I would look for maybe something with the righties, maybe Alec Boehm. My opinion, I would wait for Boehm to get out of the slump before you start sort of laying the money down on him there. So I mean, I would just really look at JT. But for player props, it's very hard to bet a bullpen game, just because you don't really know what pitchers are going to be out there. Obviously, like last night, you knew about Snell. It's just a little difficult to sort of know like what arms are going to be out there for the Giants. So I would probably just look at some JT props, sort of ride the hot hands right now.
All right. Yeah. Nick Castellanos 0 for 4 yesterday. Bomer 0 for 3 yesterday. Harper 0 for 3 yesterday. JT 1 for 4. Schwarber 2 for 4 at the top. 2 RBIs, 1 home run. Whit Merrifield getting some innings, getting some run in there. 0 for 3. Pesci 0 for 3.
You're not going to win when this happens.
2 for 3. So yeah, he had a pretty good game yesterday. Nice work by Rojas out there in center field. Although he did have a brain fart on one play and out there. With a runner tagging on first and second. But anyways, as far as the hits are concerned, I bring that up, Luke, because we got a low total on DraftKings Sportsbook at 7. I don't think anyone's going to sit here and tell us different, that Wheeler's going to be Wheeler, and we fully expect him to limit the Giants to 3 runs, 4 tops. All right. Do the Phils have 4 in them? Do they have 5 in them? Do you see this kid? Like, if this is going to be a bullpen game, I could see the Phillies, getting in there, staying aggressive and getting it going and getting their team total over 4.5 and plus money, 5.5 at plus 160. And again, the game total in there at 7. Your thoughts on runs being scored tonight?
Yeah. So I'm sort of leaning, maybe, on this over 7. I think Wheeler has been honestly a different pitcher on the road compared to home this year. He's been a lot better at home. Has definitely had some issues on the road this year. I'm gonna be on that over 7 tonight. I think this is a night where the Phillies can sort of get some runs off of these bullpen arms, and while I think Zach Wheeler could maybe go 5, 6, 7, 8 innings. I don't think it'll be some 0 earned run outing for him. I think the Giants are hitting the ball pretty well right now. And I don't think Wheeler's going to get knocked around. But I'm going to just continue to back his away numbers compared to his home runs right now. So I'm going to go over 7 tonight, I think. I just think tonight's a night where you're going to see some runs. I mean, I don't think it's going to be some, 9-8 ball game. But I think it's a night for 1, the Phillies offense to get going. 2, I think the Giants can sort of maybe keep it rolling here a little bit. Not necessarily as much as they've been, but I think it's a low number for the circumstances.
Okay. So what I would tell you is that, I think that, look, from the number, from the runs, I think we'll see a lot being scored by the Phillies tonight. I also think that, Wheeler's going to be right in the flow of things. And I fully expect a big game, a big outing by Zach Wheeler. So let's put it that way. I will take a roll of the dice on the team total. And I think that when it comes down to it, the Phillies are going to come away with that victory tonight. So a little high price tag, if I'm not mistaken. Once again, DraftKings Sportsbook, we're getting our numbers from -198, Zach Wheeler. 7 is your total in that one. Miller +164. And the San Francisco Giants. A good spot for this team to turn it around and get a victory here and quiet some of that noise that has taken place on the timeline.
The sky is falling. Trey Turner is not going to center field.
No. So stupid. So stupid. All right, let's talk a little bit about what's taking place around the league. And first and foremost, Ronald Acuna Jr. Wow.
Yeah. Really unfortunate.
It is. It is. It's a huge deal for the Braves. They're going through it, losing Acuna and Strider in the same damn year. That's heartbreak city. I get it. We don't like anybody, especially the Braves, NL East, all that. Um, Man, that sucks though. I
Yeah.
just as a sports fan, as a baseball fan, as someone that could, has been through injuries, to some of their big time players over the years, and my favorite teams, there's nothing worse. And for a sport like baseball, when you have 162 and you're losing, like, that's the deal with the Phillies. I try to tell everybody, it's like, just enjoy it, man. Like, this is an unbelievable start. They're going to lose games, but you got to enjoy it. Get home, turn the TV on, watch the games. 9:45 start. Who cares? Stay up. Let's go. This team deserves our attention. And it just stinks when you lose a big name player for your favorite squad. And it's somebody like Ronald Acuna Jr., former MVP, could very well win it again this year. Could have. Came out slow start, but we know what he brings to the table. That Braves organization, though, they're going through it right now, Luke. And my question to you is, does this keep them out of the playoffs in your mind? Now, I have my take because I think there's a lot of bad teams in baseball this year. But you never know. Something like this, they're already dealing with a ton of injuries right now. Riley at third base has been out for the past couple of weeks. Of course, I brought up Strider, and now dealing with this with Ronald Acuna Jr. How much is too much, I guess, is my question.
Yeah. I think this will be a lot closer for them than people think. Listen, they are still a very good baseball team, right? They have not been able to get going on offense. Matt Olson's been bad. Ronald Acuna, who obviously just got hurt, he wasn't really having a great start to the season. And they're still 9 games over 500 with a 4-game lead in the wild card. I don't think they're going anywhere necessarily out of the playoff race. One, because I think they're going to make a deadline, probably a big push at the deadline like they did back in 2021. He got hurt 3 years ago. Obviously, the exact same injury, torn ACL. They went out and got Jorge Soler, Eddie Rosario, and Adam Duvall and won a World Series. So how much this move or this injury obviously is going to hurt them a lot, right? And anytime you take a guy who hits 40 home runs, steals 70 bases, and wins MVP out of your lineup and the sort of franchise player of your team, it's going to hurt a lot. I mean, this is like for the Phillies, this is like losing Bryce Harper and Zach Wheeler within a matter of a month and a half. This team would suffer big time. But for the Braves, I think they're going to still stay in it. How long will the Marcell Ozuna MVP train go? I don't know, but it doesn't seem like it's stopping anytime soon, right? This dude's hitting the crap out of the ball. 15 home runs, 47 RBIs. He's hitting like over 300, around like 58 hits already. So while I think they are going to not necessarily compete for the division as hard, this is basically a very easy walk now for the Phillies for the division. This would, barring some injury, this would have to be a massive collapse for them. These Mets aren't going to catch them. They're not good enough. The Nationals obviously aren't there. The Marlins aren't even close. The Braves just lost Ronald Acuna. This is the Phillies division to lose now. But I do think the Braves will still make the playoffs. Yes. I think they're still too good of a team, even with the loss of Acuna. And I still think they have the guys around that will be able to sort of pick up the slack.
We've had definitely a major shift as far as the odds are concerned. Phillies are now favored -150 to win the division. Braves are +120. So that should tell you a little bit of about what's going on. Again, as late as last week, Braves were favored to win the division. If I'm not mistaken, before Memorial Day, I think I saw the Braves winning the division still. Now, things were pretty close to even both ways, but you're talking about a huge shift as far as the odds now that the Phillies are -150. And when you lose an everyday player like Ronald Acuna Jr., that goes without saying. And again, for the people out there that maybe might be a little reluctant, I still don't think -150 is a bad play. I really don't. I told you 2 weeks ago, you better have it in your pocket. Mandatory play. The Phillies win a division. They now have a 6-game lead over the Atlanta Braves, 12.5 over the Nationals. Wow, I bet you a lot of people could not have told you the Nationals were in third place, but 24-28. Braves are 30-21 on the season, 4-6 in their last 10. And, just reeling after what just took place with Ronald Acuna Jr. They did take 2 or 3. Actually, they ended up losing 2 or 3 to the Pirates over the weekend, and ended up losing yesterday to the Nationals 8-4 in Atlanta. Back at home, taking on the Nationals today.
It's actually funny, too, because even though this last big little games here for the Phillies, or they've lost 3 of their last 4, they've actually gained in the standings in the entire National League. Los Angeles lost 5 in a row. Braves just lost. There's nobody in the National League right now within 12 games of them that is on a winning streak of more than 2 games. So while the Phillies have played some bad ball over the last few days, everybody else has played even worse.
Mm-hmm.
So they haven't lost any ground. And matter of fact, they've actually made it up. So not really any reason right now for me to panic.
All right. Wanted to see. Yep, they do actually. DraftKings does have to make the playoffs. The Braves are still minus 5,000 on the yes, plus 1,500 on the no. And
They're
again,
just too good. Even without them,
I think that has a lot to do with the state of baseball, though, more than anything.
Yeah, exactly. Right. National League isn't that good.
Yep.
Yeah. There's 5 good teams in the National League.
Yeah.
Phillies, Dodgers, Braves, Brewers, and Padres. I would say Arizona's okay. But this is an American League heavy year so far through the first 2 months.
I agree with that. All right, final thoughts on tonight's game. Go Phils. And I think, look, I'm all about it. I think team total for the Phillies. I think they go out there and get 5 runs tonight. So give me the over on 4.5. If you want to lay the number on minus 1.5, I'm not opposed to that either. But that's going to be my number one, is the team total over 4.5. Get the bats going. Get out there. I'm not too worried about this being a bullpen game for the Giants. The commitment isn't really there. They're going to be all over the place. So the micromanaging might work out at the end, but I'm willing to bet that it doesn't. So I'm going to take the Phillies over 4.5 tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I'm basically right there with you. I'm going to go game over 7, Phillies over 4.5. I think I'm going to go minus 1.5 as well.
Okay.
It's
minus 122.
Zach Wheeler versus a bullpen game. I think the bats get going again. And once again, I would look at Real Muto tonight. And I think Harper as well. I think Harper gets something going again later in the game tonight.
Zach Wheeler, 6.5 strikeouts, minus 135. Did have a really good outing last time out against the Giants. So something to keep our eyes on there. And again, let me pull up those numbers if I could. That was from the first week of May. Zach Wheeler in that game. Phillies ended up winning 6-1. Wheeler in that game went
7 innings pitched, 4 hits, just 1 unearned run with 11 strikeouts.
11 Ks.
Back on May 6th. So,
let's see if you can
get over that. That
thing.
was at home, but I would be willing to bet that if he did it once, he can probably do it again. He's Zach Wheeler.
Damn right. All right, everybody enjoy the game. That will do it for us here on Luke and I. Will be back a little later this week. Fun episode last week before Memorial Day. We're getting Tonka involved. See if we can get him involved as well. But, of course, this team continues to roll on. And long way to go. Long way to go. Everybody's, I know, looking for something to talk about. I get it. But they'll be back at home taking on the Cardinals here on Friday. They got some home games coming up here. Brewers is going to be a good series. Then they get on the road to take on the Mets, on the road to take on the Red Sox, and then on the road to take on the Orioles. So long way to go. And guess what? They're going to lose a game here and there. Everybody,
it's okay. It just because they lose 3 or 4, your $300 million shortstop doesn't have to move to center field.
I read somebody Sunday morning when I woke up that they needed to keep him on the bench. He's like, you guys are just completely out of your minds.
Yeah, I bet they do.
I don't know. Yeah. There's one thing for somebody to say it on a timeline. There's another for somebody to get on the microphone at one of the more popular stations in the city of Philadelphia and just spew that nonsense.
Just like our platoon for our shortstop for the next 100 games should be Cody Clemens and then Mundo Sosa.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Right.
Luke, enjoy the game here. I know I'll be watching a little bit late at night with you as well. Fire up an extra cup of coffee, and we'll be back a little bit later talking about the Phils and, of course, catching everybody up on Major League Baseball. Always a pleasure, sir.
Yes, sir. I love a late night game. Go Phils.
Damn right.
eBay Motors is here